week, we had a news conference, and they asked me the exact same question. I said, I disavow. Now, right after the program that we're talking about, and I thought it was clear, but, we're talking about groups. I do have to know the name of the group, because who knows? I mean, they have to give me the name of the group. But right after, when I reviewed it, I put out a tweet and I put out on Facebook that I totally disavow. Now, everybody knew I did that, but the press refused to look at that. It was right after. And I disavowed then. I disavowed today on ABC with George Stephanopoulos. I disavowed again. I mean, how many times are you supposed to disavow? But I disavow, and hopefully it's the final time I have to do it. But if you look at Facebook and if you look at Twitter, right after the show, I put out a statement because I want everybody to be sure.
The biggest icon in wrestling.
Hey, yo, welcome to Disavowed Podcast. Today is April 16th, 2023, and you are here to witness the degeneracy. I am your always gracious and humble host, Bebo the Great. And let's let's just get right into it. A video. We're going to start out with a video that will make you proud to be an American. Give me a few seconds here as I'm a one-man band. Here we go. If this don't make you proud to be an American, I don't know what will make you proud to be an American. I mean, if this isn't a perfect example of our culture, I don't know what is. Yeah, Yes, that is a young lady that is grinding and freaking a duck. I mean, I can't think of anything else more American than this. This is what we've become. Let's keep moving on with the degeneracy. Let's see what more we have. Here we go. A Texas woman was killed after refusing to have children with her boyfriend. Young lady Jade Alyssa Alvarez was found murdered with multiple gunshot wounds. A San Antonio man allegedly shot his girlfriend after she told him she did not want to have his baby, according to police. Adam Bird, 23, has been charged with murder for gunning down his girlfriend just days after he robbed a store at gunpoint. I can't imagine why she didn't want to have this young man's child. His future was looking so bright after robbing local convenience stores. Alvarez's dead body was found with multiple gunshot wounds on Capitol Avenue in Austin around 6:30 a.m. on April 6th. A woman who had been with Alvarez the night before the shooting told police the victim had been dating Bird. He had been talking to Alvarez on the woman's phone and asked for her to drop him off on Capitol Avenue, where she was found dead hours later. Bird at the time had an active warrant for 2 counts of aggravated robbery from a stick-up earlier in the month. After being taken into custody this week in question about the robbery, Bird admitted to the police he had killed Alvarez over an argument about how he wanted to have a child with her, but she did not. Oh. He also admitted to using the same gun to kill her that he used in the robbery, according to the affidavit. I mean, can we ask for any better citizenry in the great United States of America? I mean, does it get any better than this? Let's see. More degeneracy. Let's see. Here we go. Pennsylvania javelin coach charged with having sex with a 17-year-old student. Apparently, she liked a lot of javelins. She could not resist the javelins. A Pennsylvania javelin coach was charged with sexually assaulting a 17-year-old boy she coached and told authorities she was romantically involved with, according to prosecutors. Hannah Marth was arrested after police learned she had engaged in a sexual relationship with a North Hamilton area high school track and field athlete, prosecutors allege. The 26-year-old coach sent the victim a 2 a.m. text in May of 2021 and invited him to her home, where the two allegedly had sex. Marth was a javelin coach during the time while the student was active member of the track and field program. She was chasing the javelin. He was playing the field. She confessed to authorities that she and the student were romantically involved in 2021. The victim told police that he and Marth were in a relationship that lasted until October. Marth has been charged with institutional sexual assault and sexual assault by a sports official. Yes, and now they got specific crimes. Sexual assault by a sports official. I mean, do we really need all these Bradshaw? Can't it just be sexual assault? Sexual assault by a sports official. Both third-degree felonies. A trusted relationship between a student athlete and an athlete's parent. And a coach can be vulnerable, a vulnerable one, said the district attorney. An abuse of that relationship shows a coach's blatant regard for the well-being of those she or he coaches, and above all, the law. Yeah, I don't know. She, from the picture, she wasn't bad looking. Maybe she. Let's be honest. Most men would. I mean, she was 26 years old. He was 17, and she was not bad looking. I'm not saying it's a good thing. She's definitely a degenerate, but I'm sure the young man wasn't being tortured. I'm sure he was a willing participant. But yes, she should still lose her job and go to jail for a period of time. But to act like this man's life is ruined. This defendant defied that trust when she committed this alleged crime against the victim. The victim. Marth is a East Area School District teacher also. Easton Superintendent David Pipertino, whatever, said in a statement that the school where she teaches was made aware of the arrest and was cooperating with authorities. And we will take all the necessary action to ensure the safety of our students. She was reportedly arraigned Thursday afternoon and freed on a $75,000 unsecured bail. Hey, starting out with three pretty good degenerate stories. Unless Trump gave his speech to the NRA this week. For all you libtards that are saying that Trump can't draw crowds anymore. They only had 2,000 in Texas. It was really like 20.
Wants to admit is that violent crime is rarely committed by legal gun owners. It is committed by a brutal class of hardened, repeat criminals.
Looks like there's not a seat available.
Left wants to admit is that violent crime is rarely committed by illegal.
Looks like there's not a seat available.
A brutal class of hardened, repeat criminals. That's who's doing it. In San Francisco.
I want to find this Elon Musk interview. This was completely golden. Give me a second, bear with me. We got the Bud Light. They're banning the Bud Light. You know. Then you got Donald Trump Jr. coming out. Like, let's not ban the Bud Light. They donate to Republicans. The prime example that a Republican and a conservative is not the same thing. The prime example of the issues that we're having in the Republican Party, that they've lost their conservative values. And let's be honest, Trump is not very conservative. Where is the... And then, man, this is amazing. This Joe Rogan AI episode that this guy created with artificial intelligence. It almost sounds exactly like a Joe Rogan podcast. So imagine you're a reporter and you're about to sit down with the richest man in the world, and you're not prepared. You're about to get your ass handed to you. You don't have any notes.
Is meaningless unless you allow people you don't like to say things you don't like. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. And if at the point at which you lose free speech, it doesn't come back.
I think the issue some people have is that a lot of people were brought back. I mean, some people were brought back who were previously banned for spreading things like QAnon conspiracies. You have people like Andrew Tate who were brought back, who were previously banned for things like
the horror of QAnon conspiracies. Yeah, you should not be able to speak on topics if you believed in QAnon. You should be banned from the public sphere. And then Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate, mind you, was held for, I think, 90 days or something, at which still no charges have been brought against him.
hate speech. Do you think you prioritize freedom of speech over misinformation and hate speech?
Yes, you should. You should. Why shouldn't you prioritize freedom of speech over misinformation or hate speech?
Well, you know, who's to say that something is misinformation? Who's the arbiter of that? Is it the BBC?
You're literally asking me?
Yes.
Well, no.
Who is the arbiter?
Yes, he's asking you, dumbass.
You are the arbiter on Twitter because you own Twitter.
Yes, I'm saying who is to say that one person's misinformation is another person's information? The point at which you say that there is this is misinformation. Like, who is
But
going
you
to
accept
decide
that
that?
misinformation can be dangerous, that it can cause
Yes.
real-world harms, that it can potentially cause...
Yeah, so the point I'm trying to make is that the BBC itself has, at times, published things that are false. Do you agree that that has occurred?
I'm quite sure the BBC have said things before that turn out to not be true
Correct.
in its, whatever it is, 100-year history, I'm quite sure.
Yes. Even if you aspire to be accurate, there are times when you will not be.
We've spoken to people very recently who were involved in moderation, and they just say there's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech in the company. Is that
Well, what
something
hate
that you want
speech are
to
you talking
address?
about? I mean, you use Twitter.
Right.
Do you see a rise in hate speech?
I mean,
But just a personal anecdote, like what do you? I don't.
personally, for you, I would see I get more of that kind of content, yeah, personally. But I'm not going to talk to the rest of for the rest of Twitter.
You
But
see more
personally,
hate speech personally.
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm
Well,
saying.
I'm just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content. And I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's
But
why I'm asking for examples.
Right.
Can you name one example?
I honestly don't need. Honestly, I
You
don't.
can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it.
But you
And
said
actually,
you-
a lot of people are quite similar. I only
Well,
look at
hang on
my
a second.
following.
You said you've
my
seen
following.
more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and
Well, then how did you see the hateful content?
because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
You can't give a single one.
And I'm saying,
Then I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
really.
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet. And yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
That's false.
no. What I
You
claimed,
just lied.
No. What I claim was there are many organizations that say that that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my
Give me
feed
one
or
example.
not. I mean, right, and
Literally
you can
can't
look at
name
something
one.
like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK. They will say that. So
Look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a
Right.
single example, and you can't name one.
right, and as I already said, I don't use that feed. But
Well, then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
That's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then
say,
how would
for
you
a
know there's
few
hateful
weeks.
content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time.
let's move on.
Wow.
COVID misinformation. You changed
Amazing.
The COVID
Amazing.
misinformation.
Has
rules.
BBC changed its COVID misinformation?
The BBC does not set the rules on Twitter, so I'm asking.
He's gonna
you-
get
No, I'm
slaughtered
talking about
again.
the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
I'm literally
Has-
asking you about, you changed the labels, the COVID misinformation labels. There used to be a policy, it then disappeared. Why do that?
Well, COVID is no longer an issue. Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations? And not reporting on that at all? And what about the fact that the BBC was put under pressure by the British government to change its editorial policy? Are you aware of that?
This is not an interview about the BBC.
Oh, you
so-
thought it wasn't?
I see now why you've done Twitter Spaces. I am not a representative of the BBC's editorial policy. I want to make that clear. Let's talk about something else. If you want
I'm
to talk about the
interviewing you
BBC,
too.
all right. Let's talk about something else.
You weren't expecting that.
Oh, that shit was golden. He fucking literally slayed him, bro. Literally. That's a reporter. Like, is that reporter's career over? I hope so. No, he'll probably in In the West, you fail your way up. The worse job you do, the more you will move up in our society. Oh shit! Let's see where we got. Here's Trump making sense. They always hate that when Trump's making sense. This is some of Trump's interview with Tucker Carlson.
Covering the weather beat here in windy Palm Beach. Actually, we're here to interview the former president and now the Republican frontrunner, Donald Trump. While the rest of us have spent the last 2.5 years arguing about systemic racism and trans rights and other ephemera, other imaginary things, America's position globally has eroded so fast it defies belief. But Donald Trump has noticed things have really changed since he left office, and that's the topic of this next part of the conversation. Here it is. You said at the time when you were president that going to war with Russia, either hot war or cold war, would drive Russia into an alliance with China.
I did.
That would displace us as the most powerful nation.
I did. But we have a bigger problem. The bigger problem is the weaponry. The weaponry today is so powerful. This isn't like Second World War where we have army tanks running around shooting each other. This is weapons the likes of which the world has never seen before. They have them and we have them. And China has them less, but within 5 years, China will have equal to us. China, I'm talking about nuclear. China has the beginnings of a very big, very powerful nuclear. They're short 5 years. They had started much later. Russia and us are comparable. Massive power, massive. And that's one of the things.
More than people understand?
More than people understand, yeah. Yeah, more.
Were you
surprised? They don't understand the power. If you look at Hiroshima, as some people call it, if you look at Nagasaki,
Trump
you look
with
at
his
those
breathing.
two events took place many, many years ago, and multiply that power times 500. That's what you're talking about. Where it actually melted the granite. You know, granite is unmeltable by blowtorches.
Yes.
But the granite, if you look at granite areas, it's like water that got, hardened, like an ice skating rink. It melted the granite. If you look at that and multiply it times 500, that's what you're talking about. When I listen to people talk about global warming, that the ocean will rise in the next 300 years by 1/8 of an inch, and they talk about this is our problem. Our big problem is nuclear warming, when nobody even talks about it.
Nuclear warming.
The environmentalists talk about all this nonsense in many cases. Look, I'm an environmentalist also, I guess, in my own way, because I've done a good job with the environment, but nobody talks about nuclear. The problem we have, the biggest problem we have in the whole world, it's not global warming, it's nuclear warming. And all it takes is one madman, and you're going to have a problem the likes of which the world has never seen. And it's only a matter of seconds. You don't have to wait 200 to 300 years for it to happen.
So what you're saying is demonstrably true. Why is this not something our leaders talk about or the press talks about?
Because I don't think they're smart. I don't think they get it. Putin got it. I would talk to him about it all the time. I never mentioned the word nuclear. You never heard me mention the word. You know, my uncle was a professor, a great professor at MIT for a long time. I think he has the longest, Dr. John Trump. And he would talk about a lot of different things, and it was very interesting to me for years. I talked to him, passed away. He's a great, great gentleman. I think it's the longest tenured professor in the history of MIT, but if he wasn't, he was very close, because he was there for almost 40 years. And we talk about things, and he said, you know, someday they'll have a suitcase, and in that suitcase, it'll be nuclear, and you'll blow up New York City out of a suitcase. And I said, no, Uncle John, that can't possibly. He's right. The power is so incredible. You can fire up a submarine and run it for years on essentially a tablet. Run it for years. So when we talk about war, and when I watch all of the people talking about Ukraine and how's Ukraine doing, blah, 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 Russia's sitting back. First of all, Ukraine's being obliterated.
Yes.
Okay, let's not even talk nuclear. But let's say it wasn't. Let's say
Oh,
they were doing
Ukraine's
better
winning.
than anticipated. If he decided to use his second form of destruction, which is nuclear, that's the end of that. You understand? And I know where you are in Ukraine, so I mean, you understand it better than most. Most people don't. Most people don't even talk about it. They don't talk about the fact that he has equal to the United States in nuclear capability and destruction. And so I watch all of this happening, and it's so sad.
But can I just ask, though, the Biden people know the power of nuclear weapons. They now control our arsenal. They don't seem worried about this.
That's because they don't understand life. They don't understand whatever it is that you have to understand. You know, it's very interesting. At the very beginning, Biden was very afraid of nuclear because I watched him and he was, oh, they have nuclear weapons. Oh, which was exactly the wrong signal to send. You don't do that. But if you go back and check your files, you'll see Biden early on saying, oh, well, we can't do this. They have nuclear weapons. But you don't want to, you don't want to act that way.
Yeah.
But he was very afraid of nuclear. I said, you got to be a little bit cooler than that. But what happened is now that nobody talks about it. But every day Putin mentions it, and every day other people mention it. And now all of a sudden, if you look, other countries are talking about getting it. This was something you don't mention. I call it the N-word. You have two N-words. You don't mention either one of them.
The two N-words. Don't mention either.
The nuclear word you don't mention because the power is so destructive. I met with
Nothing's more edgy than a white boy saying nigga. Nothing. Nothing.
Sorry, I had to find that.
You have two N-words. You don't mention either one of them. The nuclear word you don't mention because the power is so destructive. I met with professors at MIT, and I was preparing for a debate. I wouldn't say it was a long preparation, but I did want to talk about nuclear because I consider it to be the single greatest threat the world has, far greater than global warming, like not even a contest. And I had these people come down. They were very smart, very expert. And I said, so when we start talking about nuclear in a debate, how would you handle it? And they looked at me, one in particular, and said, sir, you can't talk about it.
Is there anything up to this point that Trump has said there that is not true? Give me one thing. One thing. He was point on everything he said. Everything he said up to this point, he's been dead on. Dead on. And these people call this man crazy. They said that Trump was going to...
I said, what does that mean? He said...
They said that Trump was going to lead us into World War III and nuclear war. Look who's leading us into it. It's the Democrats because they're satanic. They're nuts. I knew from the very beginning, soon as the Democrats were involved in Ukraine over there. When I found out that Hunter was over there doing business and Sleepy Joe was over there getting kickbacks, I knew this was going to end in a world war. I knew it.
It is so massive, it is so destructive that you cannot talk about it. I understood exactly what he meant. And we stayed away from it for the most part. But now Putin's mentioning it all the time. We don't mention, but Putin's always mentioning it. You've heard him say it. We are a nuclear power. He said not so long ago, I said, that's the first time I've heard a major country. You know, you do hear it talked about, and I did a good job. I did a great job with North Korea, Kim Jong-un. You went with me on a trip. You insulted him, which didn't make my life too easy, but that's okay. But you were there, one of the few. And it was an amazing, it had to be one of the most incredible experiences for you.
For sure.
But it was amazing. We had thousands of reporters. They weren't treated particularly nicely either, by the way, but I got along great with them. And because of that, it started rough, remember, with, Rocket Man, Little Rocket Man? And he said, I have a button on my desk, a red button. I said, I have a red button on my desk too. Mine's bigger and mine works, yours doesn't. And this went on for a couple of months, and then all of a sudden,
Mine works, yours doesn't.
the log jam was broken, and he wanted to meet, and we did meet, and we get along great. To this day, we get along great. He won't talk to Biden. He won't even talk to these people. He won't even talk to them. He has no respect for him. He's a man. If he respects you, he'll respect you. He wouldn't talk to Obama. Obama tried to get meetings with him. He wouldn't meet with him. He met with me. I met with him twice. I would have had a deal worked out with him. He's got tremendous nuclear capability. It's the single biggest problem. Maybe this show's more important than even I thought it might be, because somebody's got to understand what has to happen, and they have to de-escalate.
So how would you do that now?
Well, now, so you have a problem. You got this crazy world is blowing up, and the United States has absolutely no say, and Macron, who's a friend of mine, is over with China, kissing his ass, okay, in China. I said, France is now going to China. You take a look at Saudi Arabia, look at what happened. They're great people. They wanted to help us. He goes over and gets a fist pump. You know what a fist pump means? Don't shake my hand because your hand's dirty. That's what a fist pump is. They got it. They were so insulted. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Oh, I don't want to shake your hand. Let's go fist pump.
Subscribe to
He's talking about Sleepy Joe going over there getting a fist bump from the Saudi prince. Like their work colleagues or some baseball players. Give him a fist bump. Yes, Anarchy, your eyes should be wide open. Yes, I'm bringing the fire. The firebrand, Bebo. Talk about the shit no one wants to talk about. I'm not going to come on here and bullshit that often. I try to bring you stories that the rest of the media is not bringing. I got this one story's pretty interesting here. Oh yeah, we had another train derailment. A train reportedly to be carrying hazardous materials derails in Maine. And then we had that Texas explosion. Had that Texas explosion that killed 18,000 heads of cattle. Lots of weird stuff going on out here. Lots of weird stuff. Here, I got a interesting one here. I have very slow internet. I am in the boondocks. I'm sorry. I'm honestly, man, I had to upgrade. I had to spend a lot more on internet when you move out to the boonies. I'm still trying to wait for Elon's internet in my area, but from what I heard, it's not even that good. Overrated. Here's a headline of this story. Zelensky is secretly buying fuel from Putin with U.S. taxpayer funds. Seymour Hersh scoop reveals. Here's a story from Seymour Hersh. It has been reported that President Zelensky, this is on cf.org. I don't even know what that is. What is cf.org? I don't know. Could be some baloney. Who knows? They're reporting. It has been reported that President Volodymyr Zelensky and other Ukrainian officials collectively embezzled hundreds of millions of dollars in American aid meant to go towards the purchase of diesel. Veteran journalist Seymour Hersh revealed that according to sources familiar with the matter, the amount could be as high as $400 million. In his latest Substack article, I believe you got to pay for that, but Seymour Hersh, if you're going to pay for something, he might be one worth paying for. Hersh developed, yeah, I'm poorly educated, but Trump loves the poorly educated. He delved into the rapid corruption allegedly taking place among Ukraine's political elite, suggesting that the situation is worse than even people think. He explained that according to one source in the American intelligence community, like you can believe them, Zelensky playing the piano. Do a search on YouTube. Maybe I'll look into that. What's so interesting about Zelensky playing the piano? He must be highly talented. He must be highly talented, not like the low-educated Bebo the Great. Yeah. The explosion was in Texas, 18,000 cattle. I don't know if they've still released the cause of that. But let's get back to this story. He explained that according to one source in the American intelligence community, like you can believe that. I'm supposed to believe a 21-year-old National Guard, got top secret information. So, take the American intelligence community reports for what they are now. Second rate, basically politically motivated degenerates most of the time. Zelensky has been purchasing discount diesel from Russia with American money and stashing the leftover funds. I mean, that might explain why Russia hasn't really finished off Ukraine. That might explain why they haven't totally taken them out. The Ukrainian president and many of his entourage have been skimming untold millions from the American dollars earmarked for diesel fuel payments, Hersh wrote. Analysts at the Central Intelligence Agency, he continued, put the number at 400 million last year. While another expert likened the level of corruption in Ukraine to that as the level in Afghanistan. During that conflict, the U.S. was paying up to $400 per gallon to move fuel from foreign ports into the nation. $400 per gallon we were paying to get diesel into frickin' Afghanistan. You believe that shit? It has not been revealed how much is being paid for the diesel in Ukraine yet. As Hersh pointed out, CIA Director William Burns confronted Zelensky on the issue of corruption during a meeting in January, telling the Ukrainian president and other officials they were mad at him for taking a larger share of the skim money than was going to the generals. You're skimming even more than the generals, Zelensky. Burns provided Zelensky with a list of high-ranking Ukrainian officials known by the CIA as corrupt. And he responded by firing 10 who had been brazenly bragging about the money they had. According to the Bureau of Military Affairs, the U.S. has provided Ukraine with over $35 billion in aid. It's a lot more than $35 billion. While the U.S. has by far the greatest supplier of Ukraine, dozens of other countries have stepped up, blah, 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 blah. There you have it. Seymour Hirsch. I mean, didn't he win like a Nobel Prize or something? He's pretty revered, I believe. I believe most people would consider Seymour Hirsch a legitimate source. Right? Let me see. Zelensky playing the piano. I gotta try to entertain the 3 people, 4 people watching me, you know. So I will pull it up. Oh yeah. I seen this actually. He's playing it with his penis supposedly. Yeah, give me a break. Yeah, I see that clip where he lifts up his hands and he's playing the piano with his penis. I highly doubt he is that well hung. Let's watch this clown show. Here's this nonsense.
나는 쇼노 따끈가.
You didn't miss anything unless you speak Ukrainian. Definitely did some cocaine before.
That's the T.
How proud you must be that's your president.
Дамы и господа, смертельный номер. Игра в 4 руки. Солирует Алексей Потапенко.
Some more degenerates. Some more degenerates up on the stage. I don't know what's more sad, that that's the president of their country. Or that they're all just sitting up there eating it up. Loving it. Like, this is great entertainment. This is what us high-class elitists consider entertainment. Not that lowbrow stuff that you uneducated Republicans are into. Oh, shit. It's something, ain't it? It's something. We, the people of America, are not the piggy bank of the world. Well, Anarchy, you could have fooled me. Sure could have fooled me. I believe we give Israel like 3-4 billion a year. And they're probably one of the most technology advanced countries on the planet. You know, they're not exactly waning in anything, but yet we throw them 4 billion a year. So, you know, I definitely, while I think, and I agree with the premise of your comment, it's just unfortunately not true. We are the piggy bank of the world. Let's see if I got anything else. If anyone in the comment section wants me to cover something. I already covered a young lady freak dancing and humping a duck. I mean, I'm running low on material if I got to cover some lady humping a duck. Trying to get a co-host. I'm trying to get a co-host so we could have some rapport and some back and forth. But apparently I'm not very good at what I do, and I can't attract anyone. One guy told me the other day, my speech pattern. We're all laughing at your speech patterns. We're all laughing at your speech patterns. Well, I'm glad I could entertain you. If I can't make you cry, the next thing I'd like to do is make you laugh. But yet you continue to listen to me and come and send me messages trying to razz me. And the best you got is we're laughing at your speech patterns. It actually hit me up. It hit a little bit. I went to the American public schools, you know. My English is not the greatest. My spelling, my speech patterns, you know, my enunciations, my ability to pronounce words are not the best. Yeah. It could be from all the damage that I've done to my brain. I think I'm going to end it there. Thank you for joining me. I have a website that mostly Chinese people seem to go to. DisavowedPodcast.com. I am going to try to start a newsletter there if I can manage to spell correctly. Eventually. But I only got 2 people signed up for it. It's like, well, what's the point of having a newsletter? Thank you for joining me. I am Bebo the Great, and you all have been disavowed.
We had a news conference, and they asked me the exact same question. I said, I disavow. Now, right after the program that we're talking about, and I thought it was clear, but, you know, we're talking about groups. I do have to know the name of the group, because who knows? I mean, they have to give me the name of the group. But right after, when I reviewed it, I put out a tweet and I put out on Facebook that I totally disavow. Now, everybody knew I did that, but the press refused to look at that. It was right after. And I disavowed then. I disavowed today on ABC with George Stephanopoulos. I disavowed again. I mean, how many times are you supposed to disavow? But I disavow, and hopefully it's the final time I have to do it. But if you look at Facebook and if you look at Twitter, right after the show, I put out a statement because I want everybody to be sure.
Biggest icon in wrestling.
In my lifetime, I've learned hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.